Good evening. Thank you. First of all, this is a very good question because if we discuss and consider about the Emirati side, we can figure out that there is a new thought, a new thinking that we didn't see before, like to promote the peacemaking, not only between Israel and the Gulf countries, but also to the Middle East, all over the Middle East and the Gulf, like Iran, and to lead the Arab countries in a different way, something that we didn't see before from the UAE and the Emirati side.
All right, and another step of that, Ellie, could be a visit by the Crown Prince Mohammed bin Zayed here in Israel. Right. That would certainly be very powerful pictures to send to the Arab world. We know Prime Minister Bennett's made the invitation. When do we think it could happen?
Right, so it's already in the making. Calev, Prime Minister Bennett indeed extended this invitation during his visit to the Crown Prince. He agreed, and Bennett instructed the Foreign Ministry and, of course, the Prime Minister's office to start getting ready for such a potential visit. It might take time. Obviously, we don't know what will happen now with coronavirus restrictions. Let me just remind our viewers that former Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu wanted to head to the UAE for so many times. He had to cancel his visit numerous times because of coronavirus restrictions. And even this visit got shorter because of that. But it is going to happen at some point. Another clear-cut outcome of this visit is another instruction on behalf of the Israeli Prime Minister to expedite the process of the free trade agreement between Abu Dhabi and Jerusalem, which will obviously be groundbreaking, not even disregarding the fact that we're talking about an Arab state and Israel, but generally speaking, free trade agreement is major.
Right. Well, let's talk about that with Nirit, Ofir. I know you're involved in the economic and trade issues between Israel and the Gulf. This trade agreement was already announced a few months ago. What are the complications involved in actually making it happen?
We know that over 2 decades we have economic relations between Gulf countries, not only the UAE, but also other countries. And the most important issue is that the UAE and also Bahrain are kind of bridge between Israel and other countries that still we don't have any international relationship with. So this is a very main point that we have to mention, because there are so many other good processes, behind there are other things that we still not see in the media and press, but happening. And this is something, it's a movement, it's a great movement. And I think that this is something that the UAE side and although the other Bahrain side want to see and promote. It can happen with visit and everything, but still, as mentioned before, that probably the coronavirus and all this situation delayed this process. But this movement is still relevant. It's still very excited because this is for the first time a historical visit.
Right. And, of course, it's less talked publicly, but we know Iran and security cooperation Iran is a big part of this relationship. We have to assume part of that discussion as well, Ali, but clearly they want to keep that side of things a little more discreet.
Right. To echo what the 2 doctors we've heard from in the past few minutes, the one in the report and the one who is currently part of this debate, the UAE really sees its role as some sort of a symbol to what could have a ripple effect throughout the Middle East. As we've heard in the report, they're even going as far as saying the Abraham Accords might be used as a model, even though it sounds far-fetched at this point in time, for Iran even to change its tune vis-a-vis not just Israel, but other countries here in the Middle East. And perhaps as a sideline indication for that, even though the consequences and the incentives here are different, we're seeing Ankara with different music recently, both vis-a-vis Gulf states, the UAE most notably, and also President Erdogan talking about perhaps getting closer with Israel anew. So again, the UAE, and correct me if I'm wrong, sees its role here not just as enhancing ties bilaterally vis-a-vis Israel, but also presenting perhaps a different model to the region altogether.